Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana. Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gora Hari Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So today we are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 9, starting from text 163. So this chapter is, we're continuing Lord Chaitanya's travels to the holy places. So we're learning about all the different places that Lord Chaitanya visited as he traveled throughout South India, all the way down to the tip of India and back up. So the last several classes have been about Lord Chaitanya's different pastimes at the house of Venkatabhata. So now he's just in today's section. He's going to leave Venkatabhata's house, which is going to be a very emotional experience for Venkatabhata, and then he's going to move on and go to the next place. So, text 163. We don't have the board today, so. Anyways, I'll just read the.
We can pull it up on our phones.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to pull it up in your phones, it's Madhya Lila chapter 9, text 163.
963?
163. Got it? Okay. Chaturmasya purnahaila bhata agyalaya.
Chaturmasya purnahaila bhata agyalaya.
Dakshina chalila prabhu Shri Ranga Dekhiya.
Dakshina chalila prabhu Shri Ranga Dekhiya.
Chaturmasya purnahaila bhata agyalaya.
Chaturmasya purnahaila bhata agyalaya.
Dakshina chalila prabhu Shri Ranga Dekhiya.
Dakshina chalila prabhu Shri Ranga Dekhiya.
Please chant.
Chaturmasya purnahaila bhata agyalana.
Masya purnahaila bhata agyalana.
Dakshina chalila prabhu Shri Ranga Dekhiya.
Dakshina chalila prabhu Shri Ranga Dekhiya. Chaturmasya purnahaila bhata agyalaya. Dakshina chalila prabhu Shri Ranga Dekhiya. Okay, let's just go to the word for word. Chaturmasya.
Chaturmasya.
The period of Chaturmasya.
The period of Chaturmasya.
Purnahaila.
Purnahaila.
Became completed.
Completed.
Bhatta agyalaya.
Bhata agyalaya.
Taking permission from Venkatabhata.
Taking permission from Venkatabhata.
Dakshina.
Dakshina.
South.
South.
Chalila.
Chalila.
Proceeded.
Proceeded.
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Sri Ranga Dekhiya.
Shri Ranga Dekhiya.
Visiting Sri Ranga.
Visiting Shri Ranga.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When the period of Chaturmasya was completed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took permission to leave from Venkatabhata, and after visiting Sri Ranga, he proceeded further towards southern India. So there's no purport, we're going to continue. If you want, we can just say these Bengali verses like all together in unison. Sangete chalila bhatta nayaya bhavane tanre vidaya lila prabhu aneka yatane. Venkatabhata did not want to return home, but also wanted to go with the Lord. It was with great endeavor that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade him farewell. Prabhu Ravi Yoge Bhatta Haila Achetana Eranga Lila Kade Sachira Nandana. When he did so, Venkatabhata fell down unconscious. Such are the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Sachi, at Sri Ranga Kshetra. So this is typical of Lord Chaitanya's travels, that wherever he went, he impacted people there that he met so profoundly that his departure was extremely painful for everyone. And yeah, we hear about this. When Lord Chaitanya left Puri, it was like a very emotionally traumatic scene for the residents of Jagannath Puri. When he went to leave on this trip, when he went to Vrindavan, also, especially for Gadadhar, because Gadadhar was his constant associate, because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, and Gadadhar is the incarnation of Srimati Radharani in Lord Chaitanya's Leelas. And so when Lord Chaitanya left, I mean, it's kind of ironic, he left to go to Vrindavan. He left Radharani somewhere else. Anyways, that's like an esoteric understanding of it. But Gadadhar had taken a vow of kshetra sannyas, that he would never leave Jagannath Puri. So when Lord Chaitanya was leaving, he was just like, what have I done? And then he was like yelling at himself, to hell with my vow, I'm going with you. You're the Lord, you are first holy place, you are the holy, wherever you are, that is like where I should be. And then Lord Chaitanya had to calm him down and be like, no, don't be impulsive, don't be overly emotional, just calm down and stay here, you have a purpose to fulfill here. And he left, but when he left, it was the same thing. Gadadhar fainted. When Lord Chaitanya left Navadvip to go to Puri, same thing. The residents of Navadvip, they were walking with him. At one point, he just turned around. He was just like, "Guys, you have to let me go." And they all just were, crying and fainting. And here again, Venkatavata. So imagine Lord Chaitanya. He stayed 4 months at his house. Imagine the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, staying at your house, waking up in the morning, taking his bath there, doing his sadhana there with you and your family, sitting down and taking meals, you're serving him, your kids are serving him, and he's talking to you. He's like, part of the family. And then he just, 4 months later, he's like, all right, gotta go. It's like very difficult. So, this pain of separation from the Lord is very intense for pure devotees like Venkatapata, and yet it's a pain, but it's, in one sense it's suffering, but in another sense it's bliss. It's another flavor of transcendental bliss for the Lord, and that's why the Lord enacts these pastimes. That's why Krishna left Vrindavan, is to increase the bliss, the transcendental, inconceivable transcendental bliss of all the residents of Vrindavan. And when Lord Chaitanya leaves, it's the same thing, that their happiness, their love for the Lord increases. So Lord Chaitanya is moving on, and let's see where he's going to go here. Text 166. Rishabha Parvate Chali Aila Gora Hari Narayana Dekila Tanra Nati Stuti Kari. When the Lord arrived at Rishabha Hill, he saw the temple of Lord Narayan and offered obeisances and various prayers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Rishabha Hill, Anagada Malaya Parvat, is situated 12 miles north of Madurai city, in the district of Madurai in southern Tamil Nadu. It is one of the mountains known as the Kutakachalas. Nearby Rishabha Hill is the forest where Lord Rsabhadeva burned himself to ashes. So we'll stop here and talk about this, because I thought this was an interesting point, that Lord Rsabhadeva burned himself to ashes. What is going on here? So we're going to look a little bit at the life of Lord Rsabhadeva and how he burned himself to ashes and why he burned himself to ashes. So I brought 5th canto of Bhagavatam. We'll read a little bit. But before we get into that, we'll do a little Mangala Charana. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militan Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Lord Rsabhadeva is a very interesting personality. His parents, actually, they were praying. They were praying for a son like the Lord. And so the Lord was thinking, well, there's no one like me. Who can compare to me, right? Like in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Mata Parataram Nanyat. That there's no one like me. There's no one else that's like me, that's even close to me. And so I can't give you a son like me, so what I'll do is I'll just become your son. And so he expanded himself and he became, he appeared as Lord Rsabhadeva. And he was a king's son, so he was, in line to be the emperor of the whole world. And so for that there's training. And Lord Rsabhadeva, if you read his pastimes, in the 5th canto there's like 3 or 4 chapters that are all about Lord Rsabhadeva, his growing up, his being the king, his teachings, his taking Vanapras. So he's a really good example of Varnashram, and especially the ashrams, that he does brahmachari training, he gets married, he's a grihasta, he's the king, and then he trains his sons, his teachings are to his sons, and then after training his sons, then he enthrones his eldest son, who's Bharat, whom Bharatvarsha, the whole planet at that time, is named after, and now India is still called Bharat, after Bharat, the son of Rsabhadeva. So then he installs Bharat Maharaj as the king, and then he goes and takes Vanaprastha. So he went through Brahmachari, Grihastha, and Vanaprastha. The Kshatriyas wouldn't take sannyas, they would take Vanaprastha, and he goes to the forest. And so it's there in the forest where he burns himself to ashes. But I thought before we go to that, let's learn a little bit about what Rsabhadeva gave the world in terms of instructions. So his instructions are in the 5th canto, chapter 5. And we won't read all of them, because they go for like 28 verses. But we'll read the first 13, because they're just really nice. And a lot of these are very famous. These are verses that Srila Prabhupada gave many lectures on and referred to in many other lectures that weren't even on these verses. I think they were very favored verses by Srila Prabhupada. So it starts from 551 if you want to follow along, but I'll just read the translations. Lord Rsabhadeva told his sons, "My dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity one's heart is purified, and one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever." So this is a very famous verse that says, "Tapo divyam putrika." And so this human form of life is not meant for sense gratification. The animals are engaging in sense gratification, but human life is meant for more than this. And the happiness that we can attain as human beings is, our potential for happiness is so much higher than what the animals have. The same pleasure that they get from eating the things that they eat, the same pleasure we get from eating the things that they get from eating their food. The same pleasure we get from sleeping, they get. The same pleasure we get from sex, they get. It's just, there's nothing glorious or superior about the human form of life if we just use it for, basically eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But he's saying, Lord Rsabhadeva is saying that human life is meant for more than this. You should be experiencing a higher level of happiness, and that happiness is spiritual happiness, which is not temporary, which continues forever, ever increasing, transcendental bliss, anandam buddhi vardhanam. And that's attainable through devotional service. So do that. That's what you're meant to do in this human form. And then he goes on to say, how to come to this position. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. So he's saying that to come to this position of devotional service by which you can experience this unending transcendental happiness, you need to associate with devotees and serve those devotees. And then he describes what is a devotee? How can you identify a devotee? So yeah, they're equipoised, they're free from anger, they're fully engaged in devotional service, they work for the benefit of others, and they don't behave in any abominable way. So this is how he's guiding them. And then, continuing to text 3, those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. So this is what you do. So first of all, it's devotional service, and then who to associate with, and now what to do. So don't do anything that's not related to Krishna. So they're not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders, nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to the execution of your duties. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. So he's instructing his sons that they're going to be kings, Bharat is going to be the king, and his brothers are going to be assisting him in doing other Kshatriya duties. So he's telling them that, don't do anything that's not related to Krishna, but at the same time, you have to do your duties. And, you have so many duties as the ruling class here, and don't be negligent in your duties, but do everything related to Krishna. In other words, connect everything that you do to Krishna. So this is a general instruction. And then he's saying, don't be attached to your home and family, but at the same time, don't be indifferent to them either. You should still be affectionate to your wife and care about them, your wife and children. But don't become obsessively attached to them as if they are your property and, the all in all. But understand that they are spirit souls, they're on their own spiritual journeys, and, you're there to assist them in whatever way that you can to attain the perfection of the human form of life. Then text 4, now he's giving the bad results of someone who doesn't do that. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after the other. So he's like, all right, we already messed up our last life by, focusing on sense gratification, and that's why we're here in this material body. A spirit soul should not be in a material body. This should have never happened to, a spirit soul. You should have a spiritual body in the spiritual world. And the fact that you have a material body here in this material world was a big mistake. We got ourselves in here due to bad choices. So knowing this, don't make the same mistake again. Don't just make the sense gratification the focus of your life. Because if you do that, what's going to happen? You're just going to get another material body and, have to deal with birth, death, old age, disease, and all the sufferings that come with that. So I think it's not very befitting for an intelligent person to do that. Now he says, text 5. As long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmika, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activities, he has to accept a material body. So now he's going a little bit more into the mechanics of how one gets a material body due to performing material activities. So whatever you do, sinful or pious, we get karma. And then that karma colors our consciousness. It creates impressions on the consciousness. And then at the time of death, because our consciousness is tainted by all the things, all the material activities, good or bad, that we've done in this world, then that consciousness leads us to, it drags us to taking birth in another material body. Right? Because Krishna says, whatever one remembers at the time of death, that state he attains without fail. So we don't want our consciousness to be tainted or colored by karma. We want it to be pure. We want it to be pure Krishna consciousness, and then we don't have to be forced to accept a material body. We can go to Krishna. Okay, text 6. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated to fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. So yeah, he's saying this is all due to the mode of ignorance. It's due to ignorance that we perform materialistic activities. It's totally unnatural for the spirit soul. Why would you do such a thing unless you're totally ignorant? So he's saying this is due to ignorance. And really we need to overcome this ignorance. That's our project in this life, is to get out of the mode of ignorance and understand, our real duties, to understand the living being, understand who we are as spirit souls, and to understand also the supreme living being, the Lord, and our relationship with him, and to develop love for him. And he's saying here to develop love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself. So he's saying that I'm actually the Lord. He's saying that. And he's saying, and unless we do that, and unless and until we develop a relationship with the Lord and develop affection for the Lord, then we're going to have to take another material body and continue working on it. So this is really our mission. He's establishing, this is your real mission. Okay, you're going to be kings, you're going to have family, you're going to have to do so many things, but this is your real mission, is to realize who you are, who God is, and reestablish your loving relationship with him. So for us too, we have so many things that we have to do in life, work, family, or duties to perform. And so, we have so many things on our to-do lists every day. But our ultimate thing to do in this life is to reawaken our dormant love for Krishna. So we should, always keep that, if not in the forefront of our minds, at least in the back of our minds. Keep it on our minds somehow or other while we're going to our different duties in this life, because this is the most important thing. He says, even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interest, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interests around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. So this is very heavy statements by Lord Rsabhadeva. He's being very point blank about what to do and what not to do. And he's saying that this can happen. It's not just people who are just totally dumb and uneducated and foolish that get caught up in sense gratification. He says even though one may be very learned and wise, and still, the modes of material nature are very strong. Maya is very strong and can drag anyone away. It doesn't matter how educated you are, how learned you are, how wise you are. Because material desires are very, very strong and they can entangle us very quickly. And then this is a very famous verse, 5:5-8. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, One becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. So, yeah, he's explaining this is the root. This is the root cause of all this entanglement, is this attraction between male and female. So, especially when, when males and females are attracted to each other on the basis of sense gratification, which is basic sexual attraction, and then all the hopes that come along with that relationship, right? Like, I remember when I was in Brahmacharini ashram and thinking, I'm going to get married and I'm going to do this and that, we're going to do this and that, and like all the things that you can't do and can't have and can't enjoy in the ashram, because it's restricted and because you're like out on Sankirtan every day and just, having to do this and that. And in those days it was like very austere, thinking about when I get married, I can, I don't have to wake up at 2:30 in the morning, I can take a hot shower if I want to, I can eat whatever I want, I just need to go to the supermarket, buy stuff, cook whatever I want, I don't have to just eat khichdi 3 times a day. And so it's not only, the relationship and the sexual attraction and all that, but it's like all the other things, like the independence, the freedom, and, I'm going to have my own money, I can spend it the way I want, like all the other opportunities for sense gratification. I'm going to have kids, it's going to be great, little cuddly kids, and, going to have, how are you going to enjoy raising the children and playing with them and watching them grow and, teaching them how to talk and all these things, taking their first steps, and so it's like all this kind of, and so we get attracted and attached. I'm going to have my house and it's going to be like this, and we're going to have a garden and I'm going to plant this, and so all of these things. And then what happens is that we get very attached to these things and we start to identify with them, that this is my house, this is like an extension of myself, like everything in my house is an expression of my personality, right? When someone walks into your house and someone said, like, you can really know a person by seeing their bathroom. All this stuff there. You open the medicine cabinet, oh, okay, this is kind of person they are. So, it kind of is like that, the way that we organize our things and our stuff and the things that we own and the way we train our children and all these things, the way we spend our money. It says a lot about who we are. Yeah. And so Lord Rsabhadeva is telling his sons that, be careful, because, all these things can be glorious if they're used in the service of Krishna, right? Your home can be a temple, you can, your family can be engaged in the processes of devotional service. Like so many, we have so many examples of wonderful devotee families in Krishna consciousness, where the husband and wife are serving the Lord together, children are being trained in Krishna consciousness, the whole family is sitting down and doing kirtan together, reading, doing Krishna Katha, doing service at the temples together. Inviting people over to the house for Krishna conscious programs. So this is nice, the conception that, and so we can be saved from these concepts of I, me, and mine, that this is me, this is my family, my wife or husband are mine, this is my spouse, these are my children, and this is my house and my garden and my things, and we can save ourselves from this illusion of material identification by very carefully molding our lives and our family situation and household situation and work in Krishna consciousness. So this is Lord Rsabhadeva he's warning his sons that this is dangerous. It's like what do you call it? It's like it's kind of like slippery. It's a slippery slope. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. So you go there, and it's very easy to just slip and fall down into the modes of passion and ignorance and material identification. So you have to you have to have your ice, this ice, what do you call them? Cleats? Like if you're going to go mountain climbing on a slippery, icy slope, then there are these like metal things that you strap onto the bottom of your boots that clamp into the ice and they grip onto it. So heading into Grihastha ashram, it's like you have to have your ice cleats, and so that you don't fall down the slippery slope, and so that you can keep climbing up. You can keep progressing upward, it's making spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness in that ashram. And Grihastha ashram, just to not have a total mood of doom and gloom here, it's dangerous. That there's actually so much scope. If we can, not slip and glide down, there's so much scope for purification and advancement in the Grihastha ashram, and that's why it's such an important ashram. So, text 9. When the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the results of past action is slackened, one turns away from his attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus, one goes to the transcendental world. So this is really important, because we always hear about this text 8, which is talking about how one becomes entangled and illusioned and attached to, family life. But this verse, text 9, gives hope that gradually going through, it's natural that in the beginning of Grihastha life, there's going to be a lot of attachment. Right? We're just speaking I'm in this RGB succession committee, and we're considering candidates for ISKCON leadership positions. And one person's name came up, and the person is just about to get married, and someone was saying, maybe we should give him a few years. You know what it's like when you first enter Grihastha ashram. There's a lot going on that your mind is very absorbed in it. It's like working on the relationship and setting things up, and it's just a very passionate time, very tumultuous, flurious time, in a good way. That's natural. Those emotions are nice, and they're inspiring, and they're thrilling, right? But they're very absorbing. It's easy to become obsessed in the situation and growing that situation. So, but as you go through, you have your kids, you raise your kids are growing up, you sort of work through stuff, the novelty wore off, a long time ago in a relationship. You're just kind of all right. So that's what he's talking about, when the knot in the heart, because in the last verse he's talking about how this knot becomes very strong, and when you have kids and house, it just becomes more and more tight. But then after a while, you kind of the house is kind of a bit much. We don't need such a big house. The kids are grown up, moved down. Maybe we can downscale. Or, it'd be nice to travel now that we're retired. Let's kind of get away from this place. You've been living here for so long. Let's see the world a little bit and see what's out there. And the whole, the romance and stuff is kind of worn off. You kind of been there, done that, and the body is not really in a state to really enjoy that stuff anymore anyway. So he's saying, the knot has slackened. It's starting to loosen. And then one starts to, he says, turn away from all those objects of attachment and affection. And in this way you can give up the principles of I and my, okay, my kids are off, they have their own families now. And you start realizing they were never mine. I put so much, I basically gave my life to raise those kids. And now they're all grown up and married, and maybe they call me once a month, or if something's wrong, they might need some advice. But they're basically on their own. And then you realize that, Krishna gave me these kids to look after for a while, and I did my part in their lives. And I was a significant part of their journey, and now they're off, and I'm going to leave this world, and they're going to continue. And these relationships are all temporary, and we learned from each other, and it was all good, and now we're moving on. That, it's just a natural thing. So he's saying that, when one turns away from this and gives up the identification that these are my children, this was my spouse, this was my home, and becomes liberated, then one goes to the transcendental world. So it's all a very natural process. And then this is the last that I'll read here of Lord Rsabhadeva's teachings. O my sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities, who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life air, mind, and senses. Having full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing bhakti yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. So there's a lot here. One could speak for months on this verse. But he's basically outlining the process of bhakti yoga, starting from taking shelter of a spiritual master, following his instructions, having faith, hearing and chanting, and serving, and yeah. So we can see here what a great personality Lord Rsabhadeva was. How deep and powerful his instructions are. And so Lord Chaitanya is very happy to visit this place where Lord Rsabhadeva spent some time. So after instructing his sons, he went to the forest. So now we're going to get to this part about how he, as it says here in this verse, burned himself to ashes. So this is described in the next chapter of 5th canto, chapter 6, the activities of Lord Rsabhadeva. So I'm going to read here from 566. Lord Rsabhadeva was the head of all kings and emperors within this universe, but assuming the dress and language of an avadut, he acted as if dull and materially bound. Consequently, no one could observe his divine opulence. So avadut means that you don't follow any rules and regulations, you just act like a madman. You just act for any, in very eccentric ways, basically. He adopted this behavior just to teach yogis how to give up the body. Because if you're acting very odd, very like a crazy person, then people don't care for you. No one's going to go to you, no one's going to bother you. They're just like, all right, that guy's a bit nuts, leave him alone. So, yeah. So he wanted to just be totally detached, not be involved, not be implicated. Because as soon as people know you're competent and intelligent, then they want you to do so many things. They want to pull you into their projects, engage you in, things, and hey, this is a really good person. Come and join our thing. But so if you show yourself to be totally unintelligent and incompetent, then you have a lot of freedom. People don't ask you anything. So that was his strategy for detaching. Nonetheless, he maintained his original position as a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Remaining always in that state, he gave up his pastimes as Lord Rsabhadeva within the material world. If following in the footsteps of Lord Rsabhadeva, one can give up his subtle body, there is no chance that one will accept a material body again. So this is interesting, giving up the subtle body. Because when we die, we leave the gross body. But if we're going to, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, the subtle body, goes with us to the next life. So, all of our karma, all of our hopes and dreams and desires and thoughts and feelings, they all come with us to the next. And we're born with that same mind. We take it with us from body to body. So with Lord Rsabhadeva, by this behavior, we're seeing how he was able to give up even the subtle body. He was able to dissolve his subtle body by relinquishing all of his false identifications. By the process of devotional service, we purify the mind and we spiritualize our mind so that the material mind, materialistic mind, which drags us into sense gratification, and the false ego, which makes us identify with matter and material things, and the material intelligence, which makes us, strategize for how to enjoy life here and have a successful material life. All those things are dissolved, purified, and basically dissolved. And the spiritual mind, intelligence, and the real identity as a spiritual soul awakens, because we have that. Because we are spirit souls, complete with a spiritual body, which includes a spiritual mind and spiritual intelligence, and that's all there. It's just dormant. But when the material subtle body is dissolved, is gone, then the spiritual mind intelligence and spiritual sense of self are fully manifest. And then we realize who we are, how to use our intelligence in Krishna's service. The mind accepts and rejects and feels, for Krishna's pleasure. And that way we don't have to accept the material body again, because there's no more material desires, no more material identification. So Lord Rsabhadeva was on that platform. Of course, he's the Lord, but he's showing us how to come to that platform by his own example. And then it says, actually Lord Rsabhadeva had no material body, but due to Yoga Maya, he considered his body material, and therefore, because he played like an ordinary human being, he gave up the mentality of identifying with it. Yeah, so he's just setting the example of how to perfect your life. If you have a material body and you have a material, gross and subtle bodies, here's what to do to get rid of it, so that you can perfect your life and go back to Godhead. Following this principle, he began to wander all over the world. While traveling, he came to the province of Karnataka in South India, and he passed through Konka, Venka, and Kutaka. He had no plan to travel this way, but he arrived near Kutakachala, right, which is where Lord Chaitanya is. That's what we were just reading. He visited this place, Kutakachala, and entered a forest there. He placed stones within his mouth and began to wander through the forest, naked and with his hair disheveled like a madman. So he's just wandering through that forest, totally naked, matted hair, like not eating and just wandering. So then the next verse. While he was wandering about, a wild forest fire began. This fire was caused by the friction of bamboos, which were being blown by the wind. In that fire, the entire forest near Kutakachala and the body of Lord Rsabhadeva were burned to ashes. So, Let's see, I'll read. No, I think I'll just stop there. So the interesting thing that it says in text 7 is that he had no plan to travel that way, but he arrived at this forest near Kutakachala. So when things happen, when we don't have a plan and they just happen, then we can understand that, the Lord is arranging things for us. So, of course, he's the Lord, but he's playing the part of a human being under the influence of Yoga Maya. And so he's allowing his life to be directed by the Lord. So often that happens. Many times on Sankirtan, book distribution on the street, people will stop and then they'll get a book. They'll be really happy that they met me and got a book. And then they'll say things like, it's funny because I never walk this way. I always take another way into town. And I just never pass this way. But something just told me, just go that way today. Just walk down that street. And then I met you and I realized this is why I came here to meet you, to get this book, because I needed this book. And many times that happens. And same thing for me, like in my journey of becoming a devotee. I met devotees in Malaysia and I was traveling around the world. And then I had plans. I was on a round the world ticket and I had plans. I'm going to stop at this place, stop at that place. I had, called people and made contacts in advance for where I was going and what I was going to do. And then there was a whole twist, like a whole turn of events. And that, I couldn't get a flight. I was supposed to go to Frankfurt, Germany. I couldn't get a flight, and I really needed to get out of the place where I was. and then I was at the airport, and I was like, just give me any flight to anywhere in Europe. And they're like, okay, we have a flight to London tonight. And I said, okay, just book it. So I went to London. I was like, I had no plans to go to London. I didn't know what I was going to do there. I didn't know, anyone, and I just got there. And then I remembered that I had met a girl in Malaysia who had given me her address, and she was living in London, so that was good. And the address she gave me, interestingly enough, was 10 Soho Street. So I went to the temple, and then, I joined that day. I moved into the temple that day. I spent hours. I went on Harinam, I heard the class, I took prasadam, I met a monk, asked a lot of questions, got a lot of amazing answers, and was convinced to just join. So then that was but I had no plan, and it was kind of like this. When you have no plan, then you can know that the Lord has His plan. Even when we have our plans, man proposes and God disposes. So, similar thing. Even the Lord, he's guided by the Lord's plan when he comes to this world. And another thing that's interesting is that this forest fire, how did this forest fire start? It says it's the friction of bamboos. So this is also, it's a metaphor that's used in different places in Bhagavatam, like the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, when Krishna's family members, when Krishna wanted all of his family members to go back to the spiritual world before he did, to make sure that they were there and that they weren't going to stay and terrorize the earth, because they were so powerful that no one would be able to stop them if they decided to, just become a little out of control. So like, I gotta take these guys home with me, otherwise they could wreak havoc here on the earth. So, so they started fighting with each other, and they basically all killed each other. And it's described there that the anger that arose with them, the fire of anger was like the fire caused by the friction of bamboos. In other words, no one caused it. No one caused that forest fire. No one intentionally lit it, but just the wind blew the bamboo trees together, and some dry bamboos are very flammable. And then the friction of those rubbing together with the wind blowing, they burst into flames and started a forest fire, and that was it. So it's so this metaphor can mean the desire of the Lord. It's used when the friction of bamboos is used as a metaphor. It means by the will of the Lord this happened, and so that's the sense in which Prabhupada says Lord Rsabhadeva burned himself to ashes. It's not like he doused himself with gasoline and lit a match. He didn't burn himself like that, but by the will of the Lord, and he is the Lord, this forest fire happened, and he didn't plan to go to that place, but he just happened to be in that place, and the forest fire just happened to happen, and then he just got consumed. His body got consumed by the flames. But, Prabhupada writes in the purport here to text 8 that forest fire and Lord Rsabhadeva's leaving in that place made that place a place of pilgrimage. That's what made the place a place of pilgrimage, was because that was the disappearance place of the Lord Rsabhadeva. And Prabhupada says that due to Lord Rsabhadeva's presence, all the animals in the forest were also liberated from material engagement. So because they all died with the Lord, they all went up in smoke together. All the animals, all the insects, all the, whatever, the plants and trees that died in that forest fire, they all also went back to Godhead. They were liberated because the Lord was there. They died in the presence of the Lord, with the Lord. So we can see that, everything that happens, the Lord's disappearance was auspicious for everyone. It wasn't not like he committed suicide and it was something really strange and, scandalous or something. So holy places are holy, not just because there's a temple there, but because the Lord went through there. And even if a devotee goes to a place, devotees turn holy places into places of pilgrimage. There's this famous verse from Bhagavatam. It says, Bhavad vida bhagavatas tirtha bhuta swayam vivo tirti kurvanti tirtani swanta stena gadabrita. Pure devotees are like holy places personified, because they carry the Lord in their heart, and therefore wherever they go, they turn that place into a holy place of pilgrimage. Like right here, we're sitting in Radhakalachandji Dham, and it's a holy place of pilgrimage because Radhakalachandji are here, Jagannath Bali, Subhaji, Shri Gauri are all here. And it's also a holy place because Srila Prabhupada came here, and it's also a holy place because Tamal Krishna Maharaj spent so much time here. And it's also a holy place because so many other pure devotees came here, and also because so many amazing devotees live here, right? So that's what makes holy places holy. Like Kolkata is a holy place because Srila Prabhupada was born there. And this year in our Krishna House Yatra, usually we go to Vrindavan, Mayapur, places like that. This year we're adding Rishikesh to the Haridwar Rishikesh to our itinerary. And I was thinking, why is Rishikesh a holy place? Why is Haridwar a holy place? And I was remembering, because in Bhagavatam, so many great personalities go there to do their meditation, do their austerities, perform devotional service. So I was like, that's what we can talk about. Like, I'm thinking, what kata are we going to do? There. There's so many Bhagavatam pastimes. This person went to Haridwar, like that. So that's what makes a holy place a holy place. And so Lord Chaitanya is doing the same thing. He's turning all these holy places that he visits, even if they're not holy places, every place where Lord Chaitanya stepped his foot is a holy place. And this year, Vaishesha Prabhu is doing a yatra in December, and he's doing with the youth, and he's taking them to all the places in India, where, maybe not all the places, but the significant places where these places that Lord Chaitanya is traveling to, that we're reading about in this chapter, he's taken to all those places. Lord Chaitanya stopped here, he had this pastime here, he stopped there, he did this pastime in Venkatapati's house where he stayed, and things like that. So it's like the first time I think that this yatra has been done by ISKCON devotees, so I don't think I'm going on it, but I'm really excited for the youth that will be going on it, and I hope it becomes a regular thing. So this is, going on pilgrimage is it's an item of devotional service, padasevanam, using our feet. Not only padasevanam means serving the lotus feet, but also means using our feet to serve the Lord, right? Walking, doing parikrams. And we get benefited, we recharge our spiritual batteries. The people that live in those holy places also become enthused. I lived for many years in Vrindavan and Mayapur, so I lived in those holy places. And whenever there was like Kartik in Vrindavan and so many devotees would come, it was like we would become enthused. We'd be like, yay, Kartik is coming, the devotees are coming, there are going to be so many special classes and parikrams, and it was enlivening for all the residents. When I lived in Mayapur, when Gorpurnima was coming, all the GBCs are coming, all the ISKCON leaders are coming, it's going to be amazing. The whole atmosphere is going to be lifted, there's going to be Kirtan Mela, Navadip Mandal Parikram. So when we go on Parikram, we're uplifted by being in the holy places, by meeting those great personalities that live there. And even the great personalities that live there are uplifted by our being there. and they become encouraged that, wow, people love this place. This place where I live is loved and worshipped by people from all over the world. And then also, additionally, when very pure devotees visit holy places, they purify even the holy places. Right? When Mother Ganga was coming to this world, she was concerned. Oh no, so many sinful people are going to bathe in my waters, I'm going to become contaminated. What to do? So then she was reassured that don't worry, because pure devotees are going to come, they're going to bathe in your waters, and they're going to neutralize all the sinful reactions that, were washed off into you. They're going to purify all those away, so you'll resume your pure state. So going on pilgrimage is a really wonderful activity for all parties concerned and for the holy places themselves. And so we see Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna in the form of the devotee, teaching us how to be devotees, especially in this age of Kali, and he's going on pilgrimage to holy places. So, Jai. Any questions or comments about this? We've heard some nice instructions. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you so much for such a wonderful narration of the pastimes of Lord Rsabhadeva, and also talking about the philosophy. It's so nice to hear the philosophy spoken. It's not by Parampara, so elusive like that. So wonderfully explained. Thank you so much. I wanted to maybe explore the topic that you touched upon, which is getting rid of the subtle body, and you made a comment that by our consciousness is contaminated by karma. And I was thinking about the statements from the Nectar of Devotion, where Rupa Goswami is teaching about how by the process of practicing Krishna consciousness, he quotes that the aprarabdha phalam papam kuta vijam phalamukam kramena vapriyata Vishnu bhakti karma. That by practicing devotional service, all karma is eradicated.
Yeah.
But obviously the sadhaka, even though the karma may be gone, but because of their desire to, I can speak for myself, right? Like to enjoy in this material world still exists. So is it because of karma, or is it because of this desire that we still, I just want to enjoy independent or whatever, like that desire is still existing? and which is why the consciousness is still not pure. I just wanted to explore that point and
Yeah.
also see, is that what is the subtle body that's keeping me here still? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, karma and the desire to enjoy are basically the same thing, right? Because, like you said, you mentioned there's 4 stages of sinful reactions. So one of those is the desire, right? There's the desire, is the seed of karma is the desire to perform material activities. So the desire is colors our consciousness, our karmic. There's the things that we do that produce karmic reactions. Then there's the reactions that are manifest now in this lifetime, and those that are waiting, like the stockpile that's waiting to play out in future lifetimes. Because we have so much karma to burn off that we couldn't possibly do it all in one lifetime. So we get allotted, we get like an allotment, okay? In this lifetime, you're going to have to experience this karma, and that's our prarabdha karma, that's the manifest karma. But there's still so much aprarabdha karma that's waiting. And then by performing material activities, we get the desire to do it again. That's what happens. Like if you haven't experienced something, you don't know anything about it, then you don't have any desire related to it, right? But then as soon as someone tells you about it, then you get the desire, oh, wow, that sounds cool, that sounds fun, let me try it. So then you do it, and then you have an experience, and you get some little, pleasure from doing it, and then you're like, oh, let me do it again, right? That's how we get habituated to doing things. But you got to do it the first time, and then and then you get the taste for it, and then you want to do it again. So that's how the desire is linked to the desire that makes us do something that gives us a karmic reaction, and then after doing it, the desire becomes stronger. So then each time it just like reinforces, and then we get caught in this spiral of getting fueling the desire, doing it again, fueling the desire, and we get stuck in cycles of karma and material desires. So they're all basically intrinsically, tied up with each other. So that's why that verse is so important that you quoted from the Padma Purana, because by doing devotional service, then gradually we get freed from all of these things, all stages. We get freed from the karma that we've accrued that would be coming to us in this life. We get free from that whole stockpile gets wiped clean, and even the desires to commit, to perform material activities in the future, that also gets wiped out. So that's the power of devotional service, and nothing else can do that. No process of atonement, no other, no pious rituals, no sacrifice, no austerity. Nothing else can do that. It's only bhakti that has the power to wipe out all those 4 stages of karma. So yeah, and that happens, but it's gradually, right? That's why it says the last line is krame. It says krama. He uses that word krama. Krama means step by step. So it's like, in one sense, so that's why our material desires don't go away. They don't go away immediately, right? It's step by step. It's a gradual process, but we can experience it, right? We can experience it. If you think about your mindset before you became a devotee and now after practicing for many years, it's different. You may still have some material desires, but it's not so intense as it was before. It's not so much. And those are not like the main driving force in your life. That's not what you're living for, right? At this point, we still have material desires, but we're kind of like, yeah, okay, it would be nice. Maybe that would be kind of nice, But it's not like, we're not intensely ambitious. Like, this is the goal of my life anymore. Like, the main thing is to go back to Godhead, but I would kind of like this to happen too, like that one, right? And if it doesn't, okay, Krishna, I can live with that, but that would be really nice. Krishna, can you please actually do it? So sometimes we're like that. And Krishna's like, yeah, we'll get there. So, but it's material desires, and they're kind of like Prabhupada says, it's like the fan, it's still spinning, but it's slowing down. So we don't need to worry about it too much. You still don't want to stick your finger into it, it's going to get hurt. But just let it just be patient, it's going to stop by itself. If we just don't plug it in again, just don't plug it, just keep unplugged. So being engaged in devotion, 16 rounds a day, 4 regular principles means you're unplugged. And as long as we don't plug the fan back in, it's not going to pick up speed and it's gradually going to stop. Is that okay?
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. That's such very lucidly explained.
Thank you. Anything else?
Also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's a verse quoted about how by engaging in bhakti, all of your desires, all of your karma is burned to ashes, just like a fire burns firewood to ashes. And in the commentary, I think it's Jiva Goswami, he says when you build a fire, your intention is not to burn all of the wood to ashes. You're building a fire for cooking.
Yeah.
And so we engage in bhakti just for the sake of engaging in bhakti. And all of this is just a byproduct
Yeah.
that we don't even focus on. We don't even worry about it. We just worry about
Pleasing
engaging in
Krishna.
bhakti.
Yeah.
So all inclusive, it just covers everything.
Thank you so much. Yeah, excellent point.
And one other thing, you're talking about holy places being created by things that have happened there, by people that visit there. And that just reminded me of the old Sankirtan newsletter back in the 1970s. They talked about devotees on the Radha Damodar party going to a parking lot, and as they get out of the van, first they offer obeisances to the holy Yogya site where
Oh, wow.
somebody is going to get a book and their whole life is going to be changed. And so, yeah, and we all remember the place where we first met devotees and the people involved, and we just feel like something really strong about that place and those people.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
We're all walking holy places. We can touch somebody. We're just carrying something, and here you go.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking of a purport, in Bhagavad Gita 7:28, that verse, Yesha Tvanta Gata Papam, Jananam Punya Karmanam, Te Dvandva Mohanir Mukta. What is it? Bhajante Mam Judavrataha. Yeah, and so the verse is saying that, unless you've acted piously in this life, in previous lives, unless you're free from sinful reactions, free from all the dualities of delusion, you can't perform devotional service with determination. So one might think, oh no, I'm hopeless. I performed sinful activities in this life. I haven't done many pious things. I'm still totally bewildered by the dualities. How am I possibly going to do devotional service with determination? And the purport, Prabhupada, he says, yeah, generally this is the qualification. But if you're fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee, then that changes everything. Immediately you become purified of all these things. Immediately whatever sinful actions you've done in this life are just totally eradicated. All piety, you become beyond pious, And he says, therefore, pure devotees travel all over the world just to purify the world and just to give opportunities for conditioned souls suffering in this material world to meet them, just to give fallen souls who are suffering a chance to meet a pure devotee so that their life can be changed, so that they can have a chance to go back to Godhead and to give hope to suffering humanity. So it's not only, we're all fortunate because we've met a devotee somewhere in this world, and like you said, that place is a significant place. It's a place of pilgrimage where we met the devotee. But similarly, we can also go out and create that place for others, right? We can go out and be the person who was standing on the street with a book and met the person, and that person will always remember that street corner for the rest of their life. Why? Because you were standing there with a book in hand, and you created that holy place for them, and for yourself, and for everyone. So, yeah, it's a nice impetus for us, because now we have this knowledge, and the world needs it. This material world it's just becoming so degraded so fast, and we have the power in our hands to actually spiritualize it, to transform it, and to make it into Vaikuntha. And that's the vision, that's what's supposed to happen. That's Lord Chaitanya's mission, is to create this golden age of Krishna consciousness. So to whatever extent we can, try to turn this world into a place of pilgrimage by performing spiritual activities and connecting others to spiritual activities. Like Clyde Warren Park is forever a holy place of pilgrimage. So many people yesterday heard the holy names for the first time, heard about Krishna, got a book, got prasadam, saw the Lord. So we just need to keep doing these things and be blessed. All right, I think it's getting late now. So thank you very much for being here and for your attentive listening and participation. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Mantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari.